Hello, welcome to Mi Casa. Thank you so much for joining me and spending this time with me so I can share my story with you. I really wanted to focus today on loneliness. Battling loneliness, struggling with loneliness, feeling lonely. It is something that I have dealt with and lived with from as long as I can remember. I know loneliness kind of seems like an odd thing to kind of subject this around, but I hope towards the end this will make sense and hopefully is relatable to you. I'm Anna Lucas and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you about my story, but first we're going to grab a smoothie. Now that we have the perfect drink, let's go back to my place and let's chat. Alright, so we just got to my apartment, so let's get inside and start chatting. Hello, welcome to Mi Casa. Thank you so much for joining me and spending this time with me so I can share my story with you. I really wanted to focus today on loneliness. I know loneliness kind of seems like an odd thing to kind of subject this around, but I hope towards the end this will make sense. So to jump right in, there was this time where my mom was telling me this story that when I was younger, I'd be playing outside, I'd be playing in the yard, just playing in the dirt, doing what kids do. At this point, I was probably like maybe in kindergarten, maybe younger. But she was telling me how I would play with spiders and bugs, which is so ironic considering that I hate spiders. I don't touch them. If there's one in my house, I ask my husband to vacuum it up because they're not welcome here. But she was telling me that I was playing with these spiders and she told me it was time to come inside, time to go to bed. And I asked her, Mom, can I bring my friends inside? And she said, no, Anna, you're not bringing those bugs inside. They were in a jar, they would have been fine, but she said, no, they're not coming inside. And I got really upset with her because she wouldn't let my friends inside. And if that kind of gives you an image of how lonely I was and how much I wanted friends, I think that's a great story to encapsulate that. Another one would be when, kind of similar, outside playing in the yard, and a neighbor or someone from the neighborhood walked by our yard, and I would say, hey, do you guys want to play? Do you guys want to be my friends? And I would try to get them to play with me and to be there with me. I don't think there ever was one time where someone actually said yes and played with me. But that's just another way of showing you how much I felt lonely, how much I wanted friends, how important that was to me, and from a very, very young age. And feeling lonely. The older that I got, the more that I tried to make friends and it didn't work. Like in kindergarten, I went to a school where everyone looked much different than I did. And because I didn't look as they did, I was excluded. They didn't want to be my friend. They didn't want to talk to me. If one of them talked to me, then they were all of a sudden excluded. So it was something where I felt extremely isolated. Because of these experiences and because of these things that I've dealt with and gone through, I learned self-isolation. Alright, I was already lonely. Now I'm lonely and I'm kind of bullied and I'm left out. And now I can't get an anchor. I can't, we're moving, so the friends that I have made or the progress that I have made, it's all of a sudden gone. It's a clean slate. And so now I'm learning okay, Anna, you're alone. You have to be able to be alone. Like, you can't have these friends, or you're not able to make these friends and keep them because you're moving when you do make them. Looking back now, I can see in my my behavior and kind of the decisions that I started making was so impacted by this loneliness and then the self-isolation that I began to learn. It turned into, okay, well, I'm gonna do my own thing then. I'm gonna not care about what other people think and just do what I want. And not saying that I was bad or anything, because I at this point was still young, still trying to do my own thing. I came to a point in 5th grade where I was like, okay, I'm really kind of tired of being on the outs. I'm really tired of kind of being to myself. I really want friends, right? So I began to appeal to the people who I thought were like the cool kids, people who stood out, the people who seemed like they were never alone, people who seemed like they were always the focal point of the attention. And I began to appeal to them, appeal to what they pay attention to, because I want to be seen, I want to be heard, I want friends. They all seemed like a close-knit group, and I wanted that. And so I started to act in a way that I normally wouldn't, and speak in ways I normally wouldn't, and make decisions that I normally wouldn't. I kind of started getting in trouble. I was hanging out with the wrong people, so I was getting caught up in some situations where I had to take the fall for, like, to be completely transparent, one of the things that happened in 5th grade was that we were on the bus, and one of my so-called friends at the time that was in this group that was supposed to be like the in crowd or whatever you want to call it, we rode the same bus together, so we would hang out and talk on the bus. Well, one day we had a Sharpie, and I remember her like starting to write on the bus, and I told her I didn't want to. And I remember her saying that if you don't do it, I'm gonna tell and say you did it, and I'm not gonna be your friend anymore. So, one, I thought, well, I don't want to get blamed for something I didn't do, and I don't want to get in trouble for something I didn't do. And then two, I thought, oh my gosh, I just got friends. I'm in this crowd, and I feel seen, and I feel like I'm hanging out with them. I have somewhere to sit at lunch now, all this stuff. I was like, I don't want to lose that. So I joined in on vandalizing the school bus, and that's like probably the worst extreme that it got to. But if that kind of shines some light on the change that it was causing in me and the behavioral differences that I was causing, like to even show how desperate I was for friends, to even be pushed to that point of like, okay, well, I want to keep my friends, and I don't want to go down for this alone if I didn't do it. And which sounds weird because I ended up participating in it and getting in trouble for it anyways. But I think the pushing factor for me was that I didn't want to lose a friend that I worked really hard to have. When I hit 6th grade, I went to a whole new school, so I started from ground zero. So what was comfortable to me was self-isolation. And I went back to being on my own, doing my own thing, being really quiet and stuff. And then sure enough, as I made friends and as I kind of got a glimpse of what things were like and stuff, I started trying to push myself again to be more like what people were looking for or paying attention to, if that makes sense. And it went back and forth where it's like, okay, I'm gonna self-isolate, or I'm gonna really push myself. I'm gonna self-isolate, or I'm gonna keep pushing out of my comfort zone. And it did this all the way up until 8th grade. Throughout this time, I had lived with my dad for a period of time, and my dad would take me to church, or I would stay the night with my grandma. My grandma would take me to church, or at the time my stepmom would sometimes take me to church, or even there would be times where I'd stay the night at my cousin's and my aunt and uncle would take me to church. So throughout this time, I had been in and out of church, a couple different churches, and really wasn't anchored into a place. And that kind of was another driving factor of my decision making and the type of person I wanted to be and stuff. So I wanted to be, a good person. I wanted to be an honest person. I wanted to be somebody that, would be like Jesus, so to speak. And so I'm trying to teeter these things. I'm trying to be good and Christian-like, Christ-like, but at the same time, I want to be fitting at school and I want to have friends. And so I was more set at a church consistently, and I was very shy, very isolated, and I didn't really feel like I had deep connections. I realized that not everyone seemed really open or as receiving of me, and that really hurt. That really bothered me. I had grown up in this church throughout seasons, and I never was able to really get anchored in relationships and participation and be a part of the youth class or anything like that. Like, I wasn't really given that opportunity. Well, I became a preteen, and they started asking me, there's this event going on, would you like to go to this event? We're traveling here, would you like to travel with us? And so it was kind of like spontaneous trips. So I started going, but I still didn't really have friends. I still felt left out. It came to a point to where we went to a church camp, which had been really fun in a lot of ways, but also was very difficult for me. Essentially, to kind of get to the point, I had experienced something where I felt like ostracized there. It ended up making my heart sort of closed off to going to something like that again and being a part of something like that again. And at this point, this is the summer where I'm getting into 8th grade, I believe it was. So I'd been in the same place for 3 years now. This was the longest I'd been at a school in a row, and I was in volleyball. I had a volleyball team. Was going to practice every day after school. I was a part of band. Once you're in 8th grade, you participate in high school band, and I really began to pour myself into potential relationships and friendships at school, and really searching for the feeling of belonging and being a part of something. I was really pushing myself to be more extroverted in a sense that was way more boisterous than I normally would have been. So I was doing a lot of things so that I was the one being looked at and being kind of seen and watched, and was someone that came across as someone that people would want to be friends with, and that they thought was fun and was outgoing and all these things. So I started making friends. Some of the high school girls started hanging out with me. They started including me in their hangouts and inviting me over to spend the night. And so it was kind of going into a transitional point where it's like, okay, well, I don't have a lot of relationships at church. I'm not really anchored here. I feel kind of ostracized. I had this hard experience that really bothered me. I feel more accepted and received and like happy at volleyball, at school, in band, and all these new experiences are happening, and I really want to pour into those things. Because I wasn't anchored in at church, and because I didn't have a lot of friends there, it was way easier for me to walk away. Not that I don't believe in God or don't want to live for God, I just don't want to go there and do that. And so that's kind of what happened, was like I drove myself further into what I wanted, which was relationships, right? So not only am I being introduced to all these new people, but just really felt really good about myself. It's like, wow, I have high school friends, and I'm part of all these things, and I'm part of school activities, and I'm constantly busy. And then it came to a point where, I was introduced to high school guys. Some of these guys were, seemed like they were interested in stuff, and one of them I was specifically interested in, and started trying to pursue actual relationships. So now I have friends. Now I am participating in school and stuff, but I'm still not happy, right? I still feel lonely. So I'm seeking out a relationship now, and I'm trying to fill that loneliness and prevent that self-isolation, and really not being myself, really kind of losing myself in this process. That relationship didn't really work out. It was on and off for that entire school year. So the summer right before I officially entered into high school, we started talking again, and at that point we just never stopped talking. Eventually he asked me to be his girlfriend, and we would hang out a little bit, mostly at school, mostly in marching band, and so we would just text. We would not call or anything like that. So I was continuing to make decisions and acting a way that I normally wouldn't, especially in seeking for this relationship. I was wondering why. There was times where it seemed like he wasn't paying attention to me and didn't want to talk to me and stuff like that. And so it came to a point where I no longer had church. Me and my dad wasn't really getting along at the time. I had some friends at volleyball, not really. I had most of my friends were in marching band and in high school now. And I have this relationship that I don't know what's going on with. Now looking back, I realized that whole season right there from the start of 8th grade and the transition into freshman year is the start of me slowly walking away from God, turning my back to God. And of course that was never the intention, and that's not something that I would intentionally decide to do. As you can see, these things were all incremental in changing the kind of trajectory of my life and also impacting me in ways that I didn't understand at the time, because I was making decisions that I wouldn't have normally made if I wasn't kind of desperate, so to speak. So to kind of summarize, I realized that it wasn't the way I thought it was going to be. The people that were in high school that I thought I was cool for being friends with were not nice to me anymore. They started kind of excluding me and really trying to push my buttons in a lot of ways, that they were trying to hurt me or make me upset or embarrass me. And so I just started feeling really isolated. And then this relationship was not going well at all. It was actually making me feel even more alone and making me even more hurt, and made me question my worth and my value. It brings me to this one day when I was in my room. I was home alone because my dad worked railroad, therefore he would travel out of town a lot and work really long shifts and stuff. So I was upstairs in my room cleaning, and I just remember that it was the first time in a long time that I decided that I wanted to listen to worship music, like Christian music. And I really just wanted to talk to God. I really wanted to pray, and I was like telling God repeatedly in my head, like within myself, was just like, I love you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. And I remember I kept saying it the whole time I was cleaning my room. And all of a sudden, I audibly heard God speak to me and say, then why have you forsaken me? And it made me stop in my tracks. It made me freeze, and my heart just dropped. It sunk, because I was like, oh God, like I never wanted to leave you. I never meant to like walk away from you and turn my back on you, and that was never the intention or the purpose. At that moment, I didn't fully understand it, because I was like, what do you mean, God? Like, have I not been living for you? Yeah, like I'm not perfect, but I believe in you. In a sense, I know that I'm living my life for a broader purpose. And yeah, at that moment, I wasn't living in that purpose, because I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what it meant. And so in this process of feeling lonely, feeling isolated, feeling bullied, and feeling embarrassed, just ostracized, like it came to a point that I also realized I had turned my back from God. And this just was like the start of it. Okay, this is just the start of the rest of my story, which we'll get into that at a later time. But you know, this was just kind of the start of the rough road, so to speak. And to kind of fast forward, about a month, maybe 2 months ago, I was talking to my husband, and I realized I'm gonna be 25 in a few weeks. I was just in complete shock, because I literally did not look far enough ahead to even see whether or not I was gonna get married, or whether or not I wanted to get married, or whether or not I was gonna make it to 25. And that was the biggest thing, was that I realized, oh my gosh, I never thought I would make it to 25. There's been a time, like, because of loneliness, like this deep struggle with loneliness, it introduced like the struggle with depression, which we'll get into that at a later point. But I realized like, oh, I struggle with depression. Even later on, I realized I struggle with anxiety. And now I realize, oh, all my life I've struggled with self-isolation as well, from results of my experiences. And so I came to the point of realizing, oh, I have friends now. I've been in the same place for a few years now, relationally, and I have, you know, all these relationships that are meaningful to me, and a lot of them feel in a sense like family, and I feel very blessed to have them. But it took me all the way up to a month before my 25th birthday for me to realize I'm about to be 25 and I finally have friends. I finally have people I can trust and people I can run to and look to for guidance and advice. And that was huge for me. I never thought that my life would look the way that it does right now. And no, it's not perfect, and no, I'm not perfect, and no, I'm not 100% whole and healed and changed. But I'm so thankful for how vastly different my life looks now than it did when I was that little kid, preschool, kindergarten age, playing with spiders thinking they were my friends, or the elementary grade thinking that the only way to keep my friends were to vandalize a bus, or fast forward to middle school, entering high school, to think that the only way to keep friends and have relationships is to be someone I'm not and act ways I don't normally do, and the only way to not feel alone is to have a relationship with somebody. And then to realize that that relationship only made me feel more and more alone, or less and less worthy, and valuable and stuff. So I know that was a lot, and I know that felt like probably a lot to take in. The purpose for me to share this battle of loneliness was to tell you that you're not alone, to tell you that it gets better, and I know it's hard right now, and trust me, I've been there, and I hope that's something that I was able to portray and express to you and show that you're not alone and I'm here for you. I want to help as much as I can. I want to be a resource. I really want to speak from my experiences and kind of show you how my life is now and how much it has changed. We didn't really get to get into that today, but that's something that I plan on going into and sharing with you guys. So I hope that this has spoken to you in some way, and if please comment down below if you have thoughts, or you want to share something, or if this made sense, or you want to share your favorite tropical smoothie. That'd be awesome. Mine is the sunrise sunset. Substitute orange juice for more mango because I love mango. But comment down below your favorite smoothie or your favorite drink. Maybe you don't like smoothies, just tell me your go-to drink. And I really hope that you join me for the ride. All right, thank you guys. Take care.